I'm Hillary Hendershot, your host, and this is Profit Boss Radio, episode 103. Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth mastermind. Profit Boss is also a community and a movement for women who are ready to take control of their money, break the glass ceiling, and give ourselves permission to finally have enough. Want the secrets of wealth to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real women who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. Let's do this, ladies. I'm pleased to introduce to the Profit Boss Radio audience a wonderful sponsor, creditrepair.com. And if you've got anything but beaming pride about your credit score, I want you to give them a call. Creditrepair.com can help make sure that there's nothing on your credit report that shouldn't be there. I can tell you from personal experience, though, full disclosure, I didn't use creditrepair.com, but I can tell you Credit Repair works. It worked for me, and I now have a near perfect credit score. Visit their website at creditrepair.com or call 1-833-333-2282 today to learn more. So today's episode title is pretty provocative, right? The $1 million asset you didn't know you had. And I actually mean it. You have a potential $1 million, it's a cash flow asset, but it is an asset that you probably don't even relate to like it's yours or like it's meaningful or like it's going to provide you even a cent of value. And the truth is that the media has kind of messed with our minds about this, and frankly, government has kind of messed with our minds about this, but the $1 million asset that you didn't know you had, and today's episode is going to blow your mind, is Social Security. So many people relate to Social Security and Social Security income like it's going to be gone. You hear things like it's bankrupt. You hear things like it's going away. And Elaine and I, my guest expert today, address those questions in today's interview. I'm not going to address them in this introduction of our interview because I want you to listen to the interview. I invited Elaine Floyd, who is the Director of Retirement and Life Planning from an organization that I get my news from called Horse's Mouth. And she's super passionate and prolific on the topic of Social Security income to come talk with us today. And just a little bit of credibility on Elaine. She, as I said, she's the Director of Retirement and Life Planning at Horse's Mouth. She's the author of Savvy Social Security Planning for Boomers and Savvy Medicare Planning for Boomers, which are two comprehensive training programs designed to educate financial advisors on the important government benefits available to clients when they retire. She's an authority on Social Security and Medicare rules and strategies as a result of her intense interest in the subject and analysis of hundreds of cases, which have been brought to her by program subscribers. She has given presentations on Social Security and Medicare for the Financial Planning Association, the AICPA, which I don't have that, whatever that acronym is, and other industry groups. She's been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, U.S. News and World Report, Kiplinger's Retirement Report, and Robert Powell's Retirement Weekly. So Elaine was really excited to come talk on Profit Boss Radio because she's really passionate about making sure that women get to claim the maximum Social Security income possible. I want you to listen to today's episode, to this interview, with an open mind. What I want you to get from this conversation is that if you pay into it, I expect, given everything I know about governance and how laws get passed and what I've seen from the past, I expect that you will receive Social Security income. And if you're an entrepreneur and you've been minimizing your taxable income as a way to get out of paying income tax, I hope today's conversation will have you think twice about that. Then after my interview with Elaine, which is right around just between 25 and 30 minutes, I have some Ask Hillary for you. Rachel's joining me, and we recorded a little segment of me answering your questions. So it's kind of a little two-part episode today. So we're talking Social Security, and then we're answering your listener questions. So I hope you enjoy. Elaine Floyd, welcome to Profit Boss Radio.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, I have been reading your Social Security updates for years, and so you're a little bit of a celebrity to me, and I'm so happy that you agreed to join us to talk about, sort of the $1 million asset my listeners probably don't know that they have. And I think we should just start by addressing the elephant in the room, which is I'm sure that the mentality that my listeners are bringing to this conversation right now. Hillary, why are you talking to me about Social Security? Isn't it bankrupt? Isn't it going away? What can you tell us about what's true about the Social Security program from the perspective of the federal government?
Well, I'll tell you what is true, and I'll tell you also, what we frankly don't know. But I will say this: my career goes back to the 1980s. I was a financial advisor in the 1980s. I was counseling baby boomers, and the advice to all the baby boomers was, don't count on Social Security. It's not going to be there when you go to retire. Yeah. And there were all these reasons why the system was not viable, and that was the message. Well, fast forward 40 years, 50 years, and it's there. And so baby boomers are now retiring, and they're finding that the benefits are there after all. And so a large part of my work is just assisting baby boomers, people, from age 60 to 70 in helping them decide when to claim benefits. But in speaking to younger people who have the same concerns that baby boomers had back then, I will say this: Social Security is probably going to be there. Now, you do read a lot in the press about, it's too expensive and they're going to have to cut the entitlement programs. Going back to 1935, when Social Security was first enacted, there was always a core group of conservatives who were against this program, who never wanted Social Security to be enacted to begin with, and they have fought it all these years, and they are still fighting it, and they are still hoping to cut it back. Now, with conservatives in power in Congress, we can't say exactly what's going to happen. So I will say for younger people, let's say between the ages of 35 and 50, it wouldn't hurt to still count on Social Security, but maybe put in place your other retirement provisions as well.
What does it mean when people say the Social Security program is bankrupt? To me, bankrupt is game over. Put an X on it. Let's walk away from it. But so they keep saying Social Security is bankrupt, but it keeps happening. It's still in existence.
Right.
So
it's still going. Right. So here's the thing. Social Security works on a pay-as-you-go system. So the benefits that are currently being paid out to current retirees are coming from the payroll taxes that are being collected from current workers. So it's, money is flowing in and money is flowing out. Now, the baby boomers have been in their peak earning years. They have been sort of front-loading the system. There's been more money coming in than has been necessary to be paid out in benefits. So this money has been accumulating in a trust fund. And there is about $2.8 trillion in that trust fund at this time. So Social Security is far from bankrupt. It's got plenty of money. But when people say it's bankrupt, they are looking ahead, and they are seeing that baby boomers are retiring, that pretty soon, actually starting in around 2022, there won't be enough payroll taxes to fund all of the benefits that are now being paid out. So they're going to start drawing down that trust fund. And in 2034, the trust fund will be at zero. They will have completely exhausted the trust fund. But at that time, there will still be payroll taxes coming in. And the payroll taxes will be enough to pay about 77% of promised benefits. So that's the current status as projected by the trustees.
So it's really not as bad. While the dynamics of the program have changed, because when Social Security was enacted, there were, I don't know if you said this, but I think 7 workers working to pay for one retiree, and sort of those numbers have really shifted. Those ratios have really shifted. But people are getting their checks now. And in my opinion, it would be political suicide for a politician we may need to phase the program out, but you can't take these benefits away from people who've paid in.
Right.
And so
you can't do that. You can't.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, let's say a 35-year-old truly believes that Social Security is not going to be there when they go to retire. they should be up in arms about this 6.2% tax that's coming out of their paycheck every week,
Right.
So yes, people are paying for Social Security and they're going to be entitled to it. And if the powers that be try to take that away, I don't know.
Yeah, I just think, imagine your elected official, says, I need to transform this program. I need to go ahead and phase it out. And you're going, wait a second, I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars into the program. I want my benefit. So right. I don't think anything fast is going to, right. I don't think they're going to rip it out of our hands.
Right. Let me just say one thing. The way I think the system will be reformed is there are a lot of nuances to this program that most people really aren't aware of. And it has to do with the way the benefit is calculated. So the benefit is calculated based on your earnings history, based on how much money you have earned over your lifetime. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they add up all those earnings, they index them, they average them, they apply a formula, and that's what determines your benefit. So if the system is reformed, the way they are likely to go about it is to make minor tweaks to that formula so that, you may get slightly less than you would have otherwise if they reform the system, but you will still get something.
Perfect. All right. So now that we've addressed that and my listeners are saying, okay, I understand I need to pay into Social Security because it'll probably be there and I'll probably benefit from it. Let's talk about kind of a general description of the program. What can people expect when they go to claim Social Security?
Okay. So first of all, everyone at this point should go to ssa.gov/myaccount and set up an account. Everybody can do that. Everybody who has paid into Social Security does have a record with Social Security. So go there and set up your account. By the way, if you have placed a credit freeze on your credit file, you would have to unfreeze it in order to do this. But what you will do is you'll go on, you'll answer a number of questions to prove that you are who you say you are, and you'll set up an account, and then you will be able to see your statement. So every year you should do this. You should pull up your statement, your earnings record, and make sure that it's correct. Make sure that all of your earnings that have been properly allocated to your account, and just track that. And as you look at your statement, you can also see your benefit estimate, and it will tell you, the approximate amount of your benefit at your full retirement age. And full retirement age is phasing in at 66 for people who are retiring now, and it's phasing up to 67 for people who are younger. So that would be the amount. Now, when you approach retirement age, you can claim your Social Security benefit as early as age 60 for a reduced amount, or as late as age 70 for a higher amount. Mm-hmm. And one of the sort of tips that we preach pretty strongly is that it does make sense to delay that benefit.
If you claim at 60, you're seriously penalized.
Seriously, yes. And so it's the difference between, I ran a few numbers here. So if you have a primary insurance amount, when I say primary insurance amount, that's the amount that you would expect to receive at your full retirement age. So if your statement shows a primary insurance amount of about $2,400, let's say, if you claim your benefit at 62, you would get $1,800 a month. Mm-hmm. Or if you wait until age 70, you would get $3,712 a month. So big difference.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then if you run that out, so then the argument is, okay, but if I claim at 70, then I'm getting zero for all those years, from age 62.
That's
and
right.
So then the question is, all right, well, what is the crossover age or the break-even age? And it comes out to about 78 if you're claiming at 62 versus 70, and it's about age 78. So then you would say, okay, do I expect to live longer than age 78? If so, then I'll claim at age 70.
Exactly. And so that's a question for a couple times. So I've never recommended a client claim at age 60, but I have recommended for a few clients that they not wait until 70. And the only reason was they desperately needed the cash flow. So they were in a position where it's like, I need to go ahead and provide for today. Now, 99% of people, I'm saying wait. Just because medical science is getting so much better, we're living longer. People are living long lives now.
Yes, they are. And the other question is, so the first question people say is, well, what if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? What if I die tomorrow? And then I just flip that and say, well, what if you don't? What if you live a very long time? Right. And that's kind of the greater risk today, is living a very long time. So we see Social Security as, we call it longevity insurance.
Yep. Yes. And now let's talk about spousal benefits, because I'm not sure folks know that you can actually claim based on someone that you've been married to and their working history.
Yes, you can. Generally, it depends on how old you are. They recently changed the rules on this. And so it was a very sweet deal for people to actually, if you had two high earning spouses, one spouse could file and suspend, and the other spouse could file a restricted application and take 50% of the other spouse's benefit for 4 years and then claim their own at 70. And it was a very sweet deal. It was too sweet a deal, actually, because they changed the rules on that. So they have tightened the rules a little bit, but it still remains that if you have one spouse is either low earning or non-earning, that spouse can get 50% of the other spouse's benefit as his or her spousal benefit.
And when you claim Social Security, you earn it for the rest of your life, right?
Yes, it's lifetime income, one of the very few sources of lifetime income, inflation-adjusted income, because it does go up with inflation.
Yes, and do you have to be? Do you have to have your spouse's permission to get their Social Security benefits?
Well, the spouse. Okay, in the case of a married couple, the other spouse. Let's say we have a husband and wife, and the husband would have to claim his benefit in order for the wife to claim her spousal benefit off of his record. Now, but we have a lot of cases where there is a divorce. And if you were married more than 10 years, this was my own situation. If you're married more than 10 years, you can go ahead and claim a benefit off of your ex-spouse's record. And that ex-spouse doesn't even need to know that you claimed.
Okay, so if you're married to the person, let's just say it's a man and a woman. I realize we're making assumptions here, but let's say a listener of my show is a woman married to a man. And if he was the higher earner, he needs to claim his benefit and then she can have 50% of that.
Yes.
But if they're divorced and they were married 10 years or more, he doesn't have to claim. Is that right?
Right. If the divorce occurred over 2 years ago. And I should note, she does have to be unmarried to get that divorced spouse benefit.
Okay, so she can't have remarried.
Right.
And if she's remarried, then she can get 50% of her new spouse's benefit.
Exactly.
Okay, good. It's complex. Now, here's a question, and I'm kind of rewinding a little, but I want to ask it while I'm thinking of it. So one of the things I do with clients is I actually go on the Social Security website and calculate their expected benefit with them right here in my office. And I can never quite figure out if the dollar amount they give me is nominal or real. So is it inflated? In other words, if I'm 40 years old and my Social Security benefit estimate says that I can expect, let's just use a round number, $3,000 a month. Is that in today's dollars or is that
today's dollars? Yes.
Okay. So it's going to feel like a lot less than $3,000 a month feels right now.
Right. Right. And I should say 3,000, that would be pushing it at the upper end of the earnings. So that actually we figured out that for a person turning 62 in 2018, the maximum benefit would be about $2,900. So yes, but that's in today's dollars. So by the time that person actually claims the benefit, it's going to be increased by annual cost of living adjustments.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm maybe used to seeing those numbers. Maybe just the folks who happen to hire me are at the top of the earnings benefit. Yeah. And I work with a couple now who's got $60,000 or $65,000 a year in joint Social Security income. They were very high earners. So, and that's significant. That's a lot of income.
It is.
Most financial advisors think that unless you have $500,000 or maybe even $1 million or more to invest, you're actually more trouble than the time it takes to help you. I have a huge problem with that notion. You aren't a number. You're a person who has real financial goals, questions, and dreams. For those of you out there with less than $500,000 to invest, have you found yourself stuck with a financial advisor who only tries selling you insurance or annuities, where it's obvious that you're nothing more than a commission to them? Or how about a robo-advisor that offers no personalized attention? Wouldn't you love to find someone who actually cares about your financial success? Someone who wants to know why you're investing in the first place? Well, I have good news. Ignite Investing now offers you personalized financial planning and advice, a professionally constructed portfolio, financial accountability, and a custom wealth plan so that you can make the most of your money, as well as connect you inside a community of investors who are goal-oriented like you and who are committed to achieving financial freedom. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, then we'd love for you to apply by visiting igniteinvesting.com and clicking on Get Started today. What designates you as a survivor? Who can claim what? Give us the details of that.
Okay. So first of all, if you are married and your spouse dies, then you can claim a Social Security benefit, a survivor benefit. So here's a typical situation. You've got a husband and wife. They are receiving Social Security. They're 80 years old and the husband dies. If his benefit is higher than the wife's benefit, she can step into that higher benefit and her own benefit will stop. So let's say he's getting $3,000, say, and she's getting half of that, $1,500. If he dies, her $1,500 benefit would stop and she would start getting the $3,000. So that's kind of just generally the way survivor benefits work. Now, we also encounter a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s whose spouses have died. And in that case, a surviving spouse, a widow or widower, can claim a survivor benefit as early as age 60. It would be for a reduced amount, but they can receive that survivor benefit either permanently or they can receive it until age 70 and then switch over to their own higher Social Security benefit. So, a lot of these details are too much for people to retain at this point, especially if you're, a few years away. But I just want people to be aware, because I encounter people all the time who just were not aware that they could claim Social Security based on their previous deceased spouse's work record or ex-spouse. I had a good friend who was married and divorced, and he died after the divorce. And she had no idea that she could claim a Social Security benefit based on his record.
I do think it's important to be aware. And if you're listening to this, think about the women in your own life who may be in one of these situations because, and make sure they get a copy of this interview because it's important. I mean, if you don't claim, that's lost money. You can't go back and get a lump sum for money you could have claimed but didn't.
Right.
And now, in the case of spousal benefits for an ex-spouse, you needed to have been married for 10 years. In order to receive survivor benefits, do you need to have been married for any length of time?
Yes, it's the same idea. If you're claiming a survivor benefit based on a ex-spouse, you had to have been married at least 10 years. Now, one difference here, though, is if you remarry after age 60, you can still claim a survivor benefit based on that previous spouse. It's where you couldn't claim a spousal benefit if you remarry. But so if he's still alive, you can't claim on his record if you remarry. But if he is deceased and you remarry after age 60, you can take that survivor benefit based on his record.
So then there probably are people out there who are receiving a survivor benefit for a deceased spouse and maybe their own benefit or a spousal benefit for a new spouse.
Yeah,
okay.
Right. So, and we do recommend anyone in their late 50s who is thinking of remarrying, I recommend a long engagement. Even if the ex-spouse is still alive, they do die. And so by remarrying after age 60, you can assure the ability to claim that survivor benefit off of that ex-spouse's record.
Well, now that is very strategic advice, Elaine.
It is. We've seen a number of cases. And one of the first cases I saw was a woman who remarried at age 57. And she's, said, well, what if I divorce this husband and claim my survivor benefit and then remarry him later? And, I called Social Security and I said, hey, what about this? And they said, we just look at the rules. And, if when she comes in to claim that survivor benefit, she's not married, we're going to give it to her. And if she remarries later, we're not going to follow up on that.
Very interesting. Not sure how he would take that, but hey, money is money. Money talks, right?
Well,
so, and I know someone who, so some life insurance policies won't pay out in the case of a suicide. Is that the case for Social Security?
No.
And survivor benefits? Okay.
No, I don't think so. The only requirement is you had to have been married 9 months. And if you were married 9 months and, then he died for whatever reason, then you would be entitled to that survivor benefit.
Okay. And I know a child, a young man, a young boy, adolescent, 12-year-old, whose father died, and he's getting survivor benefits.
Yes. This is critical. This is very important for people to understand because deaths happen at all ages. And anyone with children, if a parent dies, those kids can get survivor benefits until they turn 18.
Based on that parent's earning history and having paid into Social Security. So if your parent dies at age 10, you can get survivor benefits until your 18th birthday, right?
Yep.
And then then you're done claiming on that parent's earnings. Now, if you get paid from Social Security Administration again, it'll be based on your earnings or your spouse's earnings.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Understood. Now, are there pitfalls to avoid? Is there anything people can do to one of the things I always think about is, people make financial mistakes. And I always hate it when people come into my office and they sort of made a big tax boo-boo and cost themselves $200,000. But is there anything people can do to screw up their Social Security income? Do they ever take it away?
Well, one thing they can do as people are starting their careers and in the middle of their careers, especially if they're self-employed, they're looking at the amount of tax that they're paying to Social Security. And many accountants will recommend that people, especially self-employed people, pay themselves a low salary in order to save that self-employment tax. Because, business owners and self-employed people are paying both sides of it. They're paying 12.4%,
right,
which is, a chunk of change there. Yeah. And so, but we've run the numbers, we've done the analyses, and it turns out that Social Security taxes are a good investment because they provide you with this lifetime inflation adjusted income. I actually really ran the numbers and compared the amount that you're paying out in taxes, Social Security taxes. What if you instead took that money and bought a commercial annuity with it? And it did not compare. Social Security was the better deal. Wow. Now, I will say that this applies to people who are, let's say, under age 55. Social Security taxes are worth it. I'll just say that. Once you get into the later stages of your career, it becomes more of a gray area. And at that point, sometimes you get a diminishing return on your taxes. So if you're, say, 60 years old and your accountant is advising you to lower your salary so that you can pay less Social Security tax, that might be good advice. I will say this, to go to an excellent calculator on the Social Security website. It's called, it's ssa.gov/estimator, ESTIMATOR. And you can go in and put in different future income projected income amounts, and you can see how it would affect your benefit. So I would strongly recommend that people who are in the position of being able to sort of determine how much Social Security tax they should pay, use that resource to see how it would affect their benefit.
Right. And that was sort of my next question was, when I think about the Social Security Administration, and I went down to the local office to change my name after I got married, and it was just rows and rows of people sitting in chairs. And I mean, it's sort of like where hope goes to die. How do you navigate working with Social Security System Administration? Earlier, you said you called them. Do you have some sort of bat phone because you are who you are? What's it like?
I don't. And, honestly, I recommend that everybody do as much online as they possibly can. You can file for benefits. Most of the time, you can file for benefits online. If you're filing for a divorced spouse benefit or a survivor benefit, you do have to go into the office and you do have to, sit in those chairs and wait. But you can usually make an appointment. I had my own experience with Social Security. I went in to file for my divorced spouse benefit. I made an appointment. I went in. I waited maybe 15 minutes. I sat at the glass with the agent, and she took my information and took my papers and set an appointment to be called back. So I was called back about 2 weeks later. It was very, very smooth. It was very easy. And after I started my divorced spouse benefit, my ex-husband died a year later. And once his death was reported to Social Security, usually the funeral directors will report the deaths, my spousal benefit automatically converted to a survivor benefit. And so that part was very easy. So Social Security sometimes gets a bad rap for being, just an impossible bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. But the system is very good. If you for most cases, it's very straightforward and it really works.
Good. And so should people really rely on the estimator tool on the website? Or my instinct would be to actually go down there because I don't want to walk in and it turns out, the calculator on the website was wrong and I've missed out on hundreds of dollars of benefit or something. What's your experience with that?
Well, the estimator, it's
just an estimator, right?
It is an estimate. And so I will, I always caution people to, don't assume that this is going to be your benefit down to the penny. It will be off a bit, but it's close enough. It's definitely close enough for planning purposes. But I will say, if you do want to know if you are entitled to survivor benefits or divorced spouse benefits, you do have to get those amounts from Social Security. You can't access that via the web.
Okay. So let's say you've made your decision. You're going to wait till age 70. At what point how long does it take once you claim to actually receive a benefit? I imagine if you decide to wait, you want to go ahead and receive that first check, maybe, on your 70th birthday, or how does that work? How long does it take and when does the checks come?
Okay, the way it works is generally you can apply as long as 3 months ahead. So let's say, for example, you're going to be turning 70 on, let's say, January 2nd. They have a weird thing about birthdays, so we're not going to say January 1st. if January 2nd is when you turn 70. So what you would do, you could actually go online right now and apply for your benefit. You would, they ask you what the effective date will be, and you would put January 2nd of 2018, and they would process it, and it usually takes a couple of weeks, really, not that long. And if they need something, they'll call you anyway. They would call you to confirm, and if they need any additional documentation or paperwork or whatever, they will let you know. And so your benefit for January is paid in February. So that's how that works. And then it will come on either the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, depending on, so if your birthday's on the 2nd of the month, you would get it on the second Wednesday of February.
Okay, perfect. And then, I think this is going to surprise some people, but Social Security, you actually pay into the system as a tax, then the system pays you, but then those benefits are taxable.
Yes.
And
yes.
So how much of my Social Security benefit is taxable? Do you know?
Well, it can be up to 85% of the benefit is taxable. And the income thresholds were established in the 1980s. They have not been adjusted for inflation. And so most people will pay a tax on 85% of their benefits.
Okay.
So,
and that counts as ordinary income on the tax return, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so that actually is kind of a way that Congress is depleting the benefit is by taxing it on the back end.
Yes. The other way they're doing it, and I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but they are they're getting it on the Medicare side. So people with high income have to pay higher Medicare premiums, and so this is where Social Security and Medicare start to intersect. And some people were paid a cost of living adjustment. The COLA for 2018 for Social Security was 2%, but many people had that entire COLA and more taken away through higher Medicare premiums. So these are what I call stealth taxes.
Yeah, a little bit of sleight of hand.
Yep.
Okay. And just for folks who are listening who maybe don't know what Medicare is, can you say really quickly what that is?
Yeah, that's the National Health Insurance Program for people who are age 65 and older. And it's a wonderful program, especially as Congress debates, the healthcare system today. People are realizing how great Medicare is.
Yeah.
So if you continue to work, you could still continue on your employer plan. But most people do sign up for Medicare at age 65 and get the government to pay for a great deal of their healthcare.
Don't you have to sign up at age 65?
You pretty much have to. If you don't, and if you're not working for an employer that employs 20 or more people, then if you do sign up, well, first of all, if you don't sign up, you're not going to have health insurance. But if you go to sign up later, that you'll be penalized. So that's why we do say you have to sign up at 65.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Well, this is full of gold. Is there anything I haven't asked you about? I think this has been a very complete conversation without too much detail, but anything glaring missing?
I just want to, return to the tips, the tips to maximize benefits.
Oh, that's right.
I say, number one, maximize your earnings record throughout your career. Just remember that the more money you make, not only are you making more money, but you are increasing your Social Security benefit by earning more. So just remember that when you go to retire, your Social Security benefit is going to be based on your earnings throughout your career, your highest 35 years of earnings. So if you can maximize those earnings, you are automatically maximizing your Social Security benefit. And then if you live another 30 years, that's going to be coming back to you, all throughout your life. So maximize earnings. The second tip, of course, is to delay, as we've been discussing. Try to take it at age 70 if you can. And then the third tip is to just be aware of those spousal or survivor benefits that you might be entitled to and make sure that you look into that.
Perfect. And we will include those tips as well as the link for the benefits estimator and the My Account link in the show notes for this episode. Thank you, Elaine, so much for your time. You're in high demand, and you're a teacher of the teachers. You often lead workshops for financial advisors. So it's been just a real blessing to have you here talking to my audience.
Thank you. My pleasure. I'm just happy to get the word out. Thank you for all that you do.
All right, let's hear it for Social Security. That's right. I want you to cash in on every dollar that you deserve. All right, so this is your little segue recording because we're heading into that episode I mentioned at the beginning of Ask Hillary. I'm going to be answering your listener questions. Enjoy. Welcome, Profit Boss, to another episode of Ask Hillary. As a special benefit for joining the Profit Boss Facebook group by going to hillaryhendershot.com/ProfitBoss, you get to ask questions that I then answer on the air. Or in some cases, I answer them right there in the Facebook group. So we've got some questions here for you today. And my trusty right-hand woman, Rachel, is going to read the questions that she picked to be answered today. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, thanks for having me. I love being on the show. The first question that I selected for this week is, from Maureen, and I'm really excited about it because, as you all know, I'm a big beauty junkie. And Maureen's question is about the fact that she is a freelance makeup artist, and she wants to know what the benefits and disadvantages are of creating an LLC versus an S corp for small businesses.
Okay, this is a great question. I see this question a lot, and you see a lot of things published on the web about the benefits of incorporating and all the magic that supposedly happens when you incorporate. And none of that is really true. Here is the truth about legal entities that are businesses. So LLCs, S corps, C corps. You need to incorporate if you need to protect your business money from the claims of debtors, personal debtors. If you need legal protection for your business, so if there's a chance you might get sued, that's a good reason to incorporate. And then there are some tax benefits. And the decision rule for you as a business owner, first of all, I don't recommend that you go research a bunch about S corps, C corps, and LLCs because it's super complex and because your tax advisor should be the one telling you what's right for you. So I'm not a tax advisor. And when I formed my business, I went to my tax advisor and I said, what should I be? And he said, my business should be an S corp for income tax filing purposes and an LLC for income tax purposes. So I have hybrid status. So legally, I'm an LLC, and for income tax purposes, I'm an S corp. I think I said that wrong the first time. So yeah, I'm literally reading it from an email he sent me because I didn't memorize it. Legally, my company is an LLC, and for income tax and compensation purposes, I am an S corporation. That's the recommendation my tax advisor made for me. I have heard that configuration is good for other people. I don't in any way recommend that you go do this. Again, I'm not a tax advisor. And so then what I think is for Maureen, who is a freelance makeup artist, it may actually be an unnecessary expense, right? I don't think that the chances someone's going to sue you are very big. I think, you probably you probably work at weddings, and I think photographers work at weddings, and I know that photographers sometimes get involved in litigation and maybe small claims court, and so maybe photographers incorporate, but I just can't see a makeup artist really getting sued, and unless you're debting really hard in your personal life, I think maybe it's just not necessary, And not only that, but I pay $800 a year to maintain that status to the state of California. So you could just avoid that expense and like that. So that's the answer. Once your business gets, big, and if you have some complexity, ask your tax advisor if you should incorporate. Otherwise, you probably don't need to. And by the way, it's just ridiculous to get a business account these days because there's so much. You have to prove who you are, and you have to prove that you know how to tie your shoes and how many chromosomes you have. It's just ridiculous to get a business account. And so if you're incorporated, you have to have a quote unquote business account. But if you're just a sole proprietor, you can actually use a personal checking account for your business. So that's, additional simplicity that makes available to you if you do not incorporate. And so I hear you. I empathize with you because there's a bunch of really weird information about incorporating on the internet. And I think that a lot of people, authors, bloggers, make it seem like incorporating is this magic thing. And it just really isn't.
One of the things I will actually add to that, and even though I know you're not a tax advisor, Hillary, but when I was in San Jose the last time visiting Hillary for Profit Boss Live, Hillary and I had lunch, and I was asking her about information for what I should do with my business and my taxes, because I do have a lot of 1099 type things that I do. And one of the best things you told me, because I am a sole proprietor, is to just get a secondary checking account and just use that for all of my tax expenses. So I've done that, and it's been really great to be able to track all those expenses, and I can still remain a sole proprietor and not have to jump through all the hoops, and it's great.
Yeah, you're just doing a bunch of side hustles. It's like, keep it simple.
Yeah.
I know that phrase, keep it simple, stupid. We don't like the word stupid, but it is a good acronym.
Let's say dum-dum. Keep it simple, dum-dum.
Keep it simple, darling. Okay, question 2.
So we have Jeanette with a question as well, and she was wanting to know about financial planning and money management for people with irregular incomes. So what her situation is that she is a realtor and her income goes through peaks and valleys, and where she's having a difficulty is when she is evening those types of situations out, especially when she's spent all of her money in the peak portion. So she'd like to know some tips or tricks for how to regulate her income. And that's her question, how to regulate that.
Yep, this is a great question. I always address this. I have a talk that I've been doing here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been talking to a lot of real estate agent groups, and I always talk about this because it's important. And first of all, if you have irregular income, but your income is low, that's bad. Okay. You can't have irregular low income. You have to hustle your butt and get yourself out of that situation so you can bring that up. But real estate agents can make 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, even higher checks off of one transaction, right? Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, they can make a lot of money selling a house, $1 million, $2 million house. So what happens is your income is really lumpy. Now, here's what I know, Jeanette, just because you asked the question, I do have some insight into your financial life because lumpy income is only a problem when your expenses are not pre-funded. So as human beings, when money comes into our accounts, we want to spend it. And when you have lumpy income, you actually have to exercise a lot of control. So what I need you to do is save up 3 to 6 months of 3 to 6 months of expenses so that you always have a lump sum of money that you're spending down. Okay. And in a perfect world, and this is what I'm doing we have a real estate agent in the 50K Wealth Multiplier Experience, the coaching program that we're running right now. And what we're doing with her is we are creating consistent income into her personal accounts. So you have to separate the business accounts from the personal accounts. And let's say you get a check for $20,000 and then $10,000 3 months later, and then $25,000 2 months later. We're creating consistent income into her personal accounts, so $2,000 to $3,000 every 2 weeks, so that her financial experience on the personal side is reliable, consistent, and can be counted on. And that's when planning can occur. Because when you don't know where your next check is coming from, we're up a creek without a paddle as it regards doing any kind of long-term planning. The planning becomes, how can I make it to the next check? And that's not a good place to be. So Jeanette, and those of you who do have lumpy income out there, you have to bite the bullet, tighten your belt for several months, and really save up. I think for real estate agents, you need 6 months of expenses in the bank before you let yourself start spending again. There's just no way around it. That's the lifestyle that you chose. And being a real estate agent can be a very, very, very successful, lucrative career, but you can't be at your best if you're worried about how you're going to pay your mortgage or your rent. That's no good. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thanks, Hillary. So we've got another question here, actually several questions from Melissa, but we're going to break those down one at a time. So our first question from Melissa is she wants to know your favorite tool to track expenses and money. She's currently using a spreadsheet and she says it's so time consuming. She's also used Mint in the past, but found that it would miscategorize things. So she wants your expert advice on the tools you use.
Yeah. And the problem of the spreadsheet is known to me. This is why I hate spreadsheets, because if you're tracking all of your expenses in a spreadsheet and you miss one transaction, you have to go back and start. Well, you don't have to start over, but let's say you don't do it for 2 weeks. You can't just pick up where you left off. You have to then go back and enter all the transactions that occurred in those 2 weeks. It's like a nightmare. So this is why I use automation. Automation is episode 84. And so I recommend that you automate. I don't use any tools. I literally create a plan for my money. I set my accounts so that money flows where I want it to go. And then I have one spending account that I don't exceed, and I'm on plan. So I literally, the only tools I use are, I have a list of the flows. Like I know when the transfers are going to occur between accounts. And I'm not going to explain too much about automation right now, but because I talk about it a lot, but this is the simplest, easiest, most guaranteed way to get yourself on a financial plan, a wealth plan, and stick to it. So go back and listen to episode 84, and I hope that helps.
Awesome. And another little side note from my lunch with Hillary, I feel like we should start calling these, instead of Ask Hillary, lunches with Hillary, lunch bunch. She said to me that, because I was asking how she keeps track of her receipts, and she writes a little note on it and takes a picture and sends it to her Evernote, and it funnels it right away. So I think that is definitely a tool for those people that do have to track business expenses, because you don't really want to have a shoebox full of receipts that you have to go through.
Yeah, I don't actually send receipts to Evernote. I send.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I have an integration it's called Scanner Pro app.
Oh, yes, that's right. I downloaded that. That's right.
Scanner Pro by Readdle. And Scanner Pro has integrations to Evernote, so that's one option. But I use the integration to Box, because we have a corporate Box account. You can also use Dropbox. And then every time I upload something, I take a picture of it on my phone, and it automatically syncs with that folder in Dropbox. So then my accountant just goes to that folder. And the truth is, you only need those receipts if you get audited by the IRS. So they just kind of sit there. But it's all happening behind the scenes.
Awesome. All right. So Melissa's next question coming up. She would like to know daily mantras, beliefs, tools to start shifting your money mindset, or even understand what your money mindset is.
I'm not really a big mantras person, because I think if you're having to say mantras to yourself through the course of the day in order to alter what's already happening, sort of the direction you're already heading, it's sort of like icing on mud. It's like, okay, this is what's really happening. What's really happening is bad, but if I keep saying these good things, that might help after a while. That's my experience. Okay. If you have a great experience with mantras or affirmations, more power to you. I go back to the 7 Steps to Wealth, episode 77, and I say, just decide. Decide. You've got to get on a path to your own financial freedom. And, when I was building this business, I was hustling my butt off. And so every day I woke up into the view, how can I serve the people who I want to be my clients? How can I reach them? How can I bring them in? What words can I say? How can I behave in meetings with them? How can I train myself to be better and more effective? It was just like my constant inquiry. And I set sales goals for myself and activity goals. And I was sprinting. Sprinting became my life. And I've only recently have had the thought and started taking actions on the thought, like, maybe I don't have to sprint anymore. So, so I just think, Melissa, I think that, and I'm pretty sure I know who this woman is, and I think she's in business for herself. I would say, set some really objective sales goals for yourself and get an accountability partner. Have someone that you answer to. Don't make promises that are critical to your life to yourself. Everyone listening knows that you are a bad person to hold your own promises, okay? Because typically we are the first person we break our promise to. So get yourself an accountability partner. I have one. I meet with him every Friday at 3 p.m. We have promises in our businesses, and we just go down the list. It's a fast 30-minute conversation total. And, if I said I would do something and I haven't done it, he doesn't just let it go. It's like, hey, what's up with that? Why didn't you do that? You're so, you achieve goals, Hillary. So the fact that you're not achieving this one, we need to look at that. And it's those conversations are so powerful. That structure that he and I created has been ridiculously valuable. So that's what I recommend.
That's awesome. And I think too, one of the best things that I love that our team does is when we put like manifestations out there of like things that we are going to achieve. And we're not saying, well, we want to do this. We're saying, hey, we're going to do this. And we decide and we make it happen. And I love that about our team. So thanks for creating that culture for us, Hillary.
That's right. It's exciting for me.
Yeah. All right, Melissa, question 3 coming up. How do you apply this mindset to an ever-growing income or income that fluctuates?
Yeah, so it's perfect that we would answer this question in this episode, because I just talked about fluctuating income. And again, I think I know what Melissa's business is. I'm not going to out her right here, but I would guess that this question comes from that she's kind of in the beginning stages of figuring out her revenue model. And I would say, Melissa, again, I'm going to go back to my answer to question 2. You've got to hustle, set yourself some specific goals, only do what makes you money, and get yourself an accountability partner. I think in the beginning stages of business, people can get really distracted with things like websites and publishing blog articles, and you have got to be selling, bringing in the money. Do the things that bring money in, only those things. You can do a little bit of content marketing and Facebook Lives and all that stuff, but you've got to focus on sales activities.
All right. Now, question 4, I think probably ties in with question 1, but I will go ahead and read this through. And she is wanting to know, Melissa's asking, what your best tips on an easy money management system that can set you up for debt freedom and eventually savings, retirement, etc.
Yep. That's automation, definitely. And then the amount that you are attacking your debt. So if you said you're paying $1,000 a month to your debt, then as soon as your debt's paid off, that money just goes to your retirement savings or your financial freedom savings. So it's really super simple.
Awesome. All right. Last question from Melissa. Is e-money a tool that can be used for tax time, something that will allow someone to create a document that can then be given to a CPA or a tax professional?
So no, it is not. E-money is a view to your bank accounts. It can help you categorize and track, see everything in one place. But what the reports that need to go to your tax planner for tax preparation are for the business. I'm assuming she's asking for the business because there really aren't any reports that need to go to the tax planner for your personal side. You on your you give the documentation of your personal income, which is either a 1099 or a W-2, and then you might have 1099s from your investments, but there's no really reports on the personal side. So I'm assuming she's asking about her business, and the reports that are needed for the business, for the tax preparer, are the profit and loss statement, often referred to as the P&L, or the balance statement. So that profit and loss shows net income, total revenue minus costs, and the balance statement shows the assets of the business. And your accountant or bookkeeper will prepare those reports and just get them over to the tax planner. So there you go.
Perfect. All righty. Thanks so much, Melissa, for those questions.
Yeah, Melissa got her money's worth, huh?
She did. All right. So our next question comes from Chrissy, and it's the last question for this segment of Ask Hillary. She stated that she just listened to episode 77, and I'm going to go ahead and give some snaps to Hillary because she said that it is an excellent episode. She loved it and is going to go back and re-listen with the enormous value that it provides. So I suggest that everybody do the same because I loved that episode as well. Now, her question is, what does a financial plan look like in your eyes?
So a financial plan can look a number of ways, but its simplest form is it's reverse engineering your financial success. So you have to start with the end in mind. We start at the day you retire, and we say either based on your desires and goals, what number do you want to retire with, or based on your spending, what number do you want to retire with? And I can't teach you how to do that because I went to school for that and I've been doing it for 18 years and it's just not something I can teach on a podcast episode. But we basically use what's called a future value calculation. And we say, okay, this is how much you're living on today. And so if we future value that for 15, 20, 25 years from now, what do we need in savings in order to produce that amount of money every year for the rest of your life? And because people are living so long, we don't actually guess when you're going to die. We kind of say, well, how much do I need in savings to produce that much money forever? And so you're safe. You have a guarantee that your money is going to outlive you. So that's really the core of what a financial plan is. We reverse engineer your success, and then we say, okay, this is how much you have to save every month in order to maximize the chances that you'll get to that number. And that really is it.
Awesome. So Chrissy actually has some other questions here, but I do want to ask a follow-up question to that. With getting those calculations together, for those of you that listened to episode 100 and are considering joining Ignite Investing or just getting more information, Hillary, do you get a financial plan with Ignite Investing if you become a client?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the custom wealth plan. That's one of the first things Jen does with you. We do that within the first 30 to 60 days that you're on board. We have to gather some information. We need to understand your lifestyle, how much you're spending, and look at kind of the other aspects of the financial picture. But then, yes, you get a custom wealth plan. We update that wealth plan every year. And that's part of the accountability that we provide in Ignite, and really is a huge part of what differentiates Ignite from a digital investment platform or a robo-advisor where you don't get advice. They just manage your money. So, and we called it a custom wealth plan just because I like saying the words custom wealth plan more than I like saying the words financial plan, but it's the same thing.
Perfect. All right. So Chrissy also wants to know, when you automate your money, how do you recommend automating? Like what kind of bucket, savings, vacation, home, etc., do you use? And specifically, she states that she automates two retirement savings accounts, but does not automate her day-to-day life, and would love a recommendation on what kind of buckets to set up to get started.
Yeah, so I'll again refer you to episode 84. I think we're having a bunch of automation questions today, but essentially you can and should automate to all of your short-term lumpy goals. So for many people, that's a vacation. For some people, it's a piece of new camera equipment. For most people, it's a car. For a lot of people, it's holiday gift spending. So whether that's Hanukkah or Christmas, those holidays both involve lots of gifts. And if you want to have a stress-free holiday, then you want to have some cashola saved up for that. So that's really the answer to that question. I mean, for example, anytime I spend more than, I don't know, $300 or $400, I look at what is that thing I want to buy. And then I say, okay, I'm going to put that out there in my future. And I write it down in my Evernote little wish list. And then I start saving for it. And then when I get to that number, I can buy it guilt-free because I waited for it. And the fact that I still want it 2 or 3 or 4 months later means, yeah, I'm really committed to having that. And then I value it more. So automate for short-term goals that exceed your biweekly today's fund number. And if you don't know what your biweekly today's fund number is, go to episode 84, which is on automation, and check that out.
Awesome. Thanks, Hillary. If you have any other questions, don't forget to go to the ProfitBoss Facebook group and ask those questions using the hashtag AskHillary.
Today's episode of Profit Boss Radio was brought to you by Ignite Investing. If it's time to release all that financial anxiety and make sure you're on the right path to financial success by hiring a comprehensive wealth management team, and you have between $25,000 and $499,000 to invest, go to igniteinvesting.com now and click Get Started today. For today's show notes, visit hillaryhendershot.com. And if you love Profit Boss Radio, please share the show with your friends and, of course, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Until next time, I wish you much prosperity.